What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and today we're going to be discussing some very interesting information, and that's because we're going to be covering a potential new Destiny 2 leak. This leak is going over some broad strokes information about Destiny, talking about its official title, talking about some baseline story elements, how they're going to support the game, exclusives, just actually a decent amount of stuff. Now, before we get into the actual information, I want to be as transparent as possible with you guys. I'm not trying to trick anyone or misinform anyone. Let's talk about this right away. This information, where is it coming from? Like, what's the source? Well, it comes from an anonymous Reddit post. So already, red flags, I'm sure. Red flags going up. And trust me, they should be. This person is claiming that they are inside on Bungie. They also know people that have sources inside on Bungie, and they're bringing this information to us in an anonymous sense. Now, that does make sense. If this actually was to happen, if a Bungie employee or someone on the inside of Bungie wanted to leak something, they're not going to use their full name. They're not going to be like, yo, check me out on Facebook, boys. Like, we're leaking all this information, because they would get fired. They would do an anonymous post. So that does make sense. However, it definitely has to be said that there's nothing stopping someone from just completely making all of this up. So take all of the information in this video with a huge grain of salt. I know a huge grain of salt is kind of counterintuitive, but just kind of be aware that it might just be, again, made up entirely. However, I feel that the majority of you guys would probably rather me bring you this information and then you can decide on your own whether or not you think it's legitimate, rather than me just decide what you guys get to hear. I'm bringing you guys the news. It's up for you guys to decide what you think of it. So, let's get started with the actual information in this leak. But before we do, guys, if you enjoy this content and want to see more, please remember to support it by liking and especially sharing. It's a simple thing, but it really helps me out. So, now let's talk about this leaked information. Firstly, the timing of this whole thing is definitely important to mention. Later today, well, the time I'm recording this, it's like 2 a.m., so I guess it's going to be later in the morning, although it's already technically morning. But that aside, the Activision conference call is coming later today. Now, that means that Activision is going to be talking about it's a financial quarterly report, so they're going to be talking about just a bunch of stuff, probably talking about how much money they're making from supply drops, how everyone totally loves supply drops, and, don't listen to everyone leaving Call of Duty in droves because everyone totally loves supply drops. I'm being sarcastic there. I actually wonder what they're going to say about that bullshit. But anyways, they are absolutely going to be talking about Destiny 2. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that Destiny 2 will be mentioned. However, it'll be mentioned in a very it's a financial conference call. So they're probably going to say, yep, Destiny 2, it's coming, it's going to be bigger than ever, just kind of broad strokes stuff like that. However, it will be mentioned, it will be brought up, it's going to be in the news, it's going to be fresh as of probably later today. So the timing of this leak is very interesting. Now on to more specific information. Firstly, Destiny 2 is going to be called Destiny 2 Forge of Hope. Now, that's interesting to me. That actually stands out to me, and the reason being was there was a leak way back when. I'm talking before the Taken King. This was an image that showcased like DLCs that were supposed to be coming out for Destiny, and it showcased, of course, the Dark Below, then the House of Wolves, then what was called at the time Comet Plague of Darkness, and it was like, a bigger DLC, and you could clearly see this from this picture that later became the Taken King. After that, there was 2 more DLCs that never happened, and one of them was called Forge of Gods. However, it was a very grainy picture, and of course they changed all of the titles and stuff. They changed Comet Plague of Darkness to the Taken King. But it's interesting that Forge aspect, like, I've heard that before. As soon as I saw this title, I was like, I've heard this before. I know this is, they were planning at one point to do something called the Forge within the original Destiny in terms of an expansion. And it makes sense that if they ended up cutting that, but they came up with an interesting story, that story might carry on into the actual official Destiny sequel. So just that title to me kind of stands out as something very interesting because I've kind of seen it before. Now moving on from there, the leak talks about a specific timeline for when Destiny 2 Forge of Hope is supposed to release. And it says it's looking to release in the window of November 4th to November 10th. So Q4 2017. We have heard fall 2017. That was coming from the mouth of the actual Activision CEO, Eric Hirschberg. During the last conference call, he said fall 2017. So that lines up, that doesn't, confirm this leak or anything like that. But it's interesting that it's looking at a November release date if that is true. Destiny has always come out, like everything big for Destiny has come out in September. The original release, The Taken King, and The Rise of Iron. So November would kind of be a break in that trend. However, I'm sure they're not married to September in a sense, and the development team could simply be like, we need an extra month. Like, we can't get it done by early September, so we need it to come out in November. So that could make sense. Very interestingly, after that, it talks about that Destiny 2 will be coming out for 5 platforms: PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One, Xbox Scorpio, which is still to be announced, and the PC. This is where things get very interesting. So it's coming out for the Xbox Scorpio, hey? We've heard about the Xbox Scorpio. We've heard that Xbox is coming up with something new, something kind of akin to the PS Pro, where it can still play Xbox One games, but it's the logical step forward. It plays them at a higher resolution, it plays them, and it has much more space, it plays them smoother, all of this stuff. And so, could we see this Xbox Scorpio announced? Well, it's entirely possible. It is really entirely possible that the Xbox Scorpio is announced in and around E3 this year and then comes out in fall. That makes a ton of sense. And of course, if it doesn't come out, if it doesn't get announced, this completely, proves this leak wrong, because they wouldn't mention specific things like the release date, like the Scorpio, like what it's called. If any of those things are false, we know that this information is false. However, if any of those things are proven true, like if during the conference call or during a separate event or someone actually leaks something with some proof, like a photo or something, and it's actually called Destiny 2 Forge of Hope, we then know that this leak is actually legitimate. So that is very interesting. Moving on from there, it's stated that console exclusivity will remain with the PlayStation, unfortunately to Xbox users, if this is true obviously, but it will be reduced to 3 months instead of it's like a year or over a year now. Like, it's so ridiculous how long Xbox players have to wait for the exotics to come onto the Xbox. So that does make sense. I don't think PlayStation is going to let go of one of their biggest franchises and one of the biggest reasons their console is selling. Like, if you get Destiny, a lot of people are just going to get it on the PlayStation because it has the exclusives. Simple as that. Furthermore, it talks about there is a whole new game engine built from the ground up for the ability for Bungie to rapidly create Destiny content. That is awesome, and that actually specifically kind of addresses one of the issues. Kotaku leaked a while back the story of Destiny's messy development. Talked about how a lot of things went wrong, and one of the big things holding Destiny back is that it was a terrible engine. The engine Destiny is running on is not that great, and the actual programs that the Bungie developers use to create Destiny content is woefully terrible. Like, it's just horrible. It takes them forever to render stuff. Like, if they want to render something, if they want to open a map and make changes, they have to leave their computers on overnight for it to come up, and then they can finally make changes the next day. Like, that is pretty insane if that's true. And that leak is generally regarded as a community. I think Deej commented on it and said, oh, well, look, we'll talk about the past later. Basically, essentially everything but outright confirming it. So that's very interesting that they would mention that we're building this from the ground up, and it's going to allow us to rapidly create Destiny content. One of the biggest problems with the original Destiny. Furthermore, the leak states that Bungie is scheduling an event release every 1 to 2 months, centering around a theme kind of similar to Overwatch, while also delivering new narrative paths and new gameplay mechanics. So, What that's saying is that we're going to see some kind of dawning April update, something like that, every 1 to 2 months with Destiny 2. That's definitely better than what it has been in the original Destiny. It's gotten better as of late, but there is really, really long stretches of time, 2 to 3 months where just nothing was happening, and that definitely hurt the game. So, if this is true, Bungie has a new engine, they can make content more rapidly, it makes sense that they're planning these more often, more frequent live updates. And that was stated before, and again in the previous Activision conference call, that the Activision CEO stressed that, content, like we found that the Destiny fans were voracious for content. They wanted content, so that's one of the key things we need to address with Destiny 2. Again, that's not speculation, that's out of the Activision CEO's mouth. So let's talk about what this leak claims the Destiny 2 story will revolve around. Well, it essentially says that chronologically, it's kind of after or pretty close to after the Taken King expansion with, you probably guessed it, the Cabal. Now, the Cabal and the whole situation of the Cabal being involved in Destiny 2 has been coming up absolutely everywhere. Mainly because there's storyline elements in Destiny that allude to a Cabal invasion. There's missions you can play right now where the Cabal send distress signals to the larger Cabal fleet asking for reinforcements, asking for help. So this has been one of the running theories for a long time. Also, pretty much every Destiny 2 leak has had something to do with the Cabal. Most recently, Mega Bloks, which is partnered with Activision and with Destiny, they already make Destiny content. There was a leak on a Mega Bloks forum about what's coming out for them in 2017, and one of the Mega Bloks sets for Destiny in 2017 features the Cabal in the tower hangar. So literally saying the Cabal are in the tower there invading the last city. This leak goes on to further coincide with that. It says that the Cabal forces attack the city, leaving the civilians and mentors of the tower defenseless. It is up to you, Guardians, to reclaim the tower and city. Now, in doing so, you're going to uncover the long-lost stories of Queen Mara Sov, who is the Queen of the Awoken. We saw her, especially around the House of Wolves expansion. She kind of disappeared, presumed dead, in the Taken King, but we never really got confirmation on that. So it's interesting that she's making an appearance again. She was definitely a more central character that kind of went nowhere after the Taken King, so again, bringing her back does make a little bit of sense. You're also going to find out about her and the Exo Strangers. Of course, the original Destiny storyline, if you can even call it a storyline, with the Stranger, that was something that was, again, it never was fully explored. It was pretty nonsensical. I'm sure the lore fanatics will know more about it, but hopefully, whether or not this leak is legitimate, they expand on the idea of the Exo Strangers, who the Stranger was, all of that stuff. The leak goes on to say that the story will culminate with the tower and the city fighting back against the Cabal Empire, resulting in the Guardians defeating the leader of the Cabal in the new raid. That, honestly, again, this could be fake, but that makes so much sense. The Cabal invading the tower is definitely one of the leading theories right now. And the fact that you push them back and then you get onto probably the Cabal leader's ship, like you infiltrate his ship, and it's like, we gotta take out the leader before he launches another attack, and then that's the first raid, finally a Cabal raid. That makes so much sense. Whether or not this is faked, I'm hyped. I'm hyped. I can't help it. This sounds sweet. And frankly, if it's not this, they better have something pretty damn good in store, because again, this sounds pretty damn awesome. Now, moving on from there, the last thing that the leak touched on was the future of Destiny. We already talked a little bit about how Destiny is being supported with live events, but it kind of goes further in detail of that. Firstly, there's going to be a larger live update every quarter. So earlier I was saying, 1 to 2 months we can expect, hopefully, according to the leak, in Destiny 2, there is some sort of event, similar to, again, the Dawning, but there's going to be an event more similar to the April update that's more substantial in content every quarter. Now, they're doing that because there's going to be apparently no more smaller DLCs. We're talking about no more House of Wolves, no more Dark Below, and instead, just bigger Taken King size expansions. In fact, the leak states that Bungie already has a small team working on the first major expansion, so it's again going to be kind of like the Taken King for Destiny 2, coming out in the fall of 2018, so exactly 1 year from the release of Destiny. The details are extremely limited because obviously it's still in super early development, even if it even is, and it apparently has to do, it's centered around the Vex and the origins of Cabal and Pradieth, which of course were the two guardians that went into the Vault of Glass. You could find their armor, you can find their weapons in the Vault of Glass, so that is super, super interesting. And so guys, that's going to be it for all of the information released in this leak. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It's from a random Reddit post. It could be completely fake. However, it's still pretty fun and pretty cool to go over this stuff. I honestly love speculating about Destiny 2. It's so fun for me. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. I love hearing your theories as well. Leave in the comment section what you guys think is going to happen in Destiny 2. What information we covered today do you think is legitimate? What may change? What do you think is fake? All of that stuff. I've seen some pretty damn good theories about what is going to happen in Destiny 2 in the comment section. So regardless, color me hyped. I can't wait for Destiny 2, and hopefully we can hear some stuff soon. Again, be looking out for any of those little things to essentially confirm all of this. If it suddenly releases in November, that's, a huge check mark for this leak. If it's called Forge of anything, that's a huge check mark for this leak, all of that stuff. But as of now, we just don't know. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it interesting, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter. That's linked in the description down below at RickCacus, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.